Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. Today we have our special reoccurring guest, Matt the Lumberjack Landlord, and we're going to be covering how you can find ADU opportunities. How are you doing today, Matt?
I'm doing awesome. Super excited to be here. And the good news is we already took a trial run to make sure we didn't waste anyone's time.
Yes, exactly. So let's get right to it. I'll let you share your screen and we can
Sure.
talk a little bit about the importance of ADUs, what they are, and how we can find them.
Sure. So the first and most important thing, so before we jump in actually sharing the screen, but the first and most important item to this is understanding what an ADU is. It's a auxiliary dwelling unit, additional dwelling unit. It depends on what your city or state might call them, but an ADU is basically just an additional unit on the same piece of land that you already have. Now, the magic here is understanding when you're looking at a property, does it have ADU potential? So for those of you who haven't watched a bunch in the news, there's a bunch of really big cities that have massive housing crunches that are saying they want to create more housing. Well, the fastest way to do that is with an ADU, where they basically talk to people and they say, hey, good news. You have a duplex right now today, but you have a basement that has a walkout. We'll actually allow you to use that as an ADU. You still have to meet code with it. However, we'll allow that now to become a dwelling unit. Well, talk about an absolute jackpot and like winning a lottery ticket, right? You own a $1.5 million house in downtown Boston. It's already a duplex. And they say, hey, good news. We'll let you do an ADU. To fix up or create an ADU in an existing basement might be 75,000, maybe 100,000 bucks. You're going to get $4,000 a month in rent for it, or $3,000 a month in rent for it. Like the return on capital is crazy. So the thing with ADUs outside of cities is having a lot with a given house. And in a particular town that we're going to take you guys through, we've actually already kind of done the research. This is actually the process that I go through manually, which is I actually look for any property that's listed. I look specifically for a few different things. The first and most important thing that you have to find is you must find the zoning ordinance document for your city. Now, don't be surprised if it's 150 plus pages. They almost always are. They're massive. I don't think Ariel believed me when I was telling her this is going to be a massive file. It was 168 pages. The good news is they actually use technology at least a little bit, and they use PDF Adobe, so you can actually click on something and it can take you to the right page, which is, thank God that's actually there. But we'll actually take you to one. So we'll show people that first, I think. Let me just do that real quick. Screen share.
Yeah, and I was actually going through foreclosure documents the other day, and those were not PDF searchable, which was
Isn't that fun? Yeah. Yeah. So you're dead on. So that's one of the cool things about this is, let me see if I can, here we go. Yeah, so we'll go here. So if you guys look at this document, super fun, lots of lovely midnight reading, like total blast to go through. Who wouldn't have fun reading this document? Me. But as you roll through it, what's actually really cool is here's all the table of contents. As you see, 168 plus page document. What's really neat about this is that the thing that you're looking for is this. Most importantly, you're looking for districts. Here's all the districts that reside in this city. Now, the challenge is in understanding when a property comes to market, how is it zoned? We'll cover that in just a second on the Zillow side, but you basically are looking for how something is zoned. These zones will tell you what it will allow for. So in this particular city, residential duplex R2, residential multifamily R3, and residential duplex R-2A. These are the three zones in the city that actually allow for a true ADU. What's cool is just scroll down just a little bit and you'll see right here, here's the purpose of the districts. So again, step one is getting that awesome zoning ordinance document. Number two, it's understanding what the zone districts are. And then it's understanding what the purpose of the zone districts are. So in this particular case, residential duplex R2, the district is provided for moderate density, single family, semi-detached residential uses, which is great because you can do semi-detached, detached. It gives you a lot of different options here. But again, the first and foremost, most important thing is understanding what the zoning is, then understanding what the districts are. So in this particular case, residential duplex R2. The idea is knowing that it's residential or it's R2, R3, or R2A. The next step is going to a given property that would be in a search that you would have in Zillow. So as an example, we already have one right here. So everyone says, okay, so I'm looking at Zillow and not everything is easy to find. In fact, Ariel and I were joking about the fact that it can be different, whether it looks on mobile and sometimes on your desktop, and sometimes how much real estate you have and how much of a show off you have with your monitor. So it can really depend on that too. But if you scroll down just a little bit here, you can actually see where you can expand this and you can get more interior detail. So what you're looking for is under the property details, you're actually looking for this one line right here, zoning description. This is R1. So what does R1 tell us? R1 tells us that this is not available, that you cannot do an ADU on this land. But it looks like there might be motivated buyers, because it doesn't look like anybody's living there. So anyway,
Definitely.
we'll cover that in the next segment.
So as of right now, where we've gotten through is you want to search your city and then put zoning ordinance, right?
Yep. That's exactly the first step is the city that you're doing your investment work in, then looking for zoning ordinance. You will then typically find a massive document, just like the one that I shared here, where it's going to be 168 pages. And then the very beginning is where you're going to find the districts, and then you're going to find the purpose of the districts. Now, once you understand purpose of the districts and the districts, then that brings you to your very next step, which is, okay, anything that you're going to find in Zillow, the very first thing that you do is you go down to zoning description and you see what your zoning description is. Those are essentially the first 4 steps to seeing if you can possibly get an ADU. Now, here's the thing. Most real estate agents, and you can send me the hate mail, don't send it to Ariel. Most real estate agents are completely useless and they do not check zoning description. So they'll look at the house and they'll say, well, that's a really nice house, well appointed, it's clean, hardwood floors, nice extras, 3-bed, 1-bath, 248 square feet. We're putting it on the market for $285. But they haven't done any of the work to find out that the zoning description is R1 or R2 or R2A or R3. If you find something like that, often the agent isn't aware of the type of zoning that it is. And that's where you go in and you steal a property. Because now it's not about this house. If this house were 285 and it was R2 and you had access to get to an additional dwelling unit with the layout of the land, well, then holy cow. Now see all this yard back here? Maybe you can just put single family tiny home, or something like that, where you can tie into the septic. So it's not obviously the most expensive and most difficult part about creating an ADU or about creating a building period is getting a lot that you can build on. Well, you just remove the most expensive barrier. When you find something that's properly zoned that you can put an ADU on, all of a sudden you've got, then you have to do all the work with, surveying, the zoning work, having to go to the town to get approval. However, there's always what's called a variance. If it doesn't fit in the exact pocket that they're looking for, you can still say, listen, it is allowed by zoning. That's the part that you don't want to have to fight, is the zoning piece. Because in order to get anything done on the zoning side, you actually have to do something called proving an actual hardship. They don't care if you say, they don't care if you want to say, I want to make more money with my property. They don't care. That's not a hardship. They say, no, you have to show me a hardship. So a hardship, as you can imagine, is extremely hard to prove. So the most important thing is making sure out of the gate that you have that R2 or R2A or R3 zoning, like for this particular town. That's the most important thing by far. And then when you do that, you're then setting yourself up to then, okay, now we can get it surveyed. Now we can get specific lot setback adjustments. That's what the survey company handles. Typical survey cost is between $4,000 and $5,000 all in. And that usually includes the cost of the survey, the cost of them attending the public hearings, them writing the document for the city to read, them actually, creating the lot plan of this is what the layout is going to look like. So you're typically $4,000 or $5,000, but then you're building. And like I said, in a lot of cases, if it's like a tinier home or a 1-bedroom home or a whatever you decide to build in that ADU, now you're talking about something that you can usually build for around $100,000, maybe a little bit more, but it's going to have, depending on the area that you're in, could have this massive return on capital If you can build something for 100 or so with existing land, now you're talking about 1,500 bucks a month is what you're going to make on that thing.
Yeah, which is
Gross. Yeah.
incredible. As we were just speaking about beforehand, just getting a lot on its own by itself
Yep.
is such a cost. But if you can actually have it within already having a property on it and being able to add more to it, it's just so much more opportunity there.
Sure.
And then for this part on Zillow, is it reliable, or is there like another source of truth that we can go to confirm that this property is districted for R1?
So in a lot of cases, what you'll find, so this one, so zoning is usually pretty accurate here. What's not very good is the parcel numbers, as we tested out and showed. What's really interesting is that this one shows this mix, and then it's 40B and then colon and then 11 and then L and then that, colon 0. What we saw was the way that the city looks this up is 40-11-0. So it's just something simple. That's a nomenclature difference. But yes, there's the, I think I already X'd out of that particular program. But there is the opportunity where you can then go and look it up. Let's see if I can find it again real quick. Yep. So here it is. I agree. So we'll do a search. We'll take, of course, that had to do that. We'll just take the address right here, which is 67 Kelwyn Drive. Control C. Let's see. Back to here. Oops, sorry. Here we go. And enter that in right here. Boom. Oh, and there it is. So we look up this property. Here's this property, and boom, there is your lot map.
Excellent.
So you can see frontage. You can see front to back. You can see tisk tisk. This neighbor's put his driveway on your lot. So they might have a little bit. This guy's going to have an issue when he sells. They're not going to have an issue when they sell. But this is a perfect example of knowing exactly what you're looking at, which is this is brought up, and then you can delve deep. Like every single city has this type of a website where you can go on there. You can see the lot plan. You can see it's 0.16 acres. And the other thing too is that if you see something like this where you're really close to the boundaries, you might not be able. They might not allow it just because you'll have to go for a variance because you'll be too close to the lot line here in order to get to the backyard over here. Or you make a deal with the neighbor because their driveway is already on your land. What you do is you say, I'll make a deal with you. You can keep this on your land, but I want to extend this out and then bring it to my second house that I'm going to put on your land right here.
Mm-hmm.
So now all of a sudden you're building your ADU right here. You now have a driveway that's now can be a quote unquote shared driveway, seeing as how it's mostly on your lot. But you then have a shared driveway, but then you can bring it in here. You can put the ADU. So yeah, that's, we're taking you through in the course of 15 minutes, an idea of how to unearth potentially $100,000 in value in a deal. If this house were like that, this house by itself is worth 285, but imagine the ability to add an ADU right here. Like that's just crazy money because you can add a 1 or a 2 small 2-bedroom or something like that. And yeah, it's higher density housing, but there's also other stuff. You can also scroll. Oops. But you can also scroll and actually see, let's see if I scroll, that was in, there we go. So looky what the neighbor has.
Oh yeah.
Right. They have 2 lots. You're on 0.16, they're on 0.21. So it's no real appreciable difference, but look what they have. They have 2 separate buildings. So now you actually have standing. Look at this lot over here, another building. This lot over here, another building. So this one has 3 buildings on it. And that's on a 0.08 acre lot. So lots of opportunity to look at this and say, yeah, there is the opportunity in this particular case where this is probably differently zoned on this side of the street because this is on a busier road than this. But there's probably the opportunity here to be granted a variance. You can go and ask for a variance and say, there's other lots here that have multiple buildings. And so it's not as easy as it being an R2, but it's still possible because other people have done it, like this guy.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, or this guy. So
the fact that the one on the bottom is less acres or less land and still is able to do it.
Yeah, that
Makes you
density
think it's possible.
that density is crazy. Like 3 buildings on 0.08. You can tell that was done in the 50s or the 60s when there weren't any real rules, and it was kind of like, it was a little bit Wild West.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you have the opportunity. You have the opportunity to get something like that, something like that done, which is just, yeah, just awesome. Because you buy something like that, like I said, you get ADU, you get agreement with the neighbor, and all of a sudden you turn that driveway into something else, and holy cow, your life changes because you bought this for 285. You're living in this beautiful home, and then you build something out here for 100 and 125,000 bucks, and all of a sudden that guy's paying your mortgage in this house.
Right.
So yeah, that's how you do it, lumberjack style. That's getting in there and finding opportunity where it might not exist. I was telling Ariel on another deal that we had just done. We actually, it was a multi-building lot. We actually did some work and some research. Then we contacted a survey company, and they said, we think we can create enough land for you where you can subdivide. And we went through the process, and we ended up 17 feet larger than the lot requirement, 17 square feet larger than the lot requirement. So it was just a matter of being creative with some lot lines. And we created, $300,000 of deal there, just by being able to subdivide a house with a lot separate.
Yeah, that's incredible. Just finding opportunities if it's not already there, for the property, say on the MLS. There's other ways, like you said, with the zoning, and then possibly doing a variance too.
Yeah, and let's be clear, this is next level stuff. Like, there are not channels that talk a lot about this stuff because this is hard. This requires extra work. However, this is extra work that when you find one, holy cow, it pays off. Like, it's literally like a winning lottery ticket. But you have to do the work, and you have to kind of dig deep and understand what your local city zoning is, what the ordinances are, what the different districts are. But once you understand that, and you saw, in 20 minutes, we just took you through exactly the process to do this, and boom, you could have, $100,000 opportunity, $100,000 worth of value that you didn't know was there. That quite frankly, other people don't know is there either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really excited for where we can go with this, and actually bringing in data, automating some of these steps, and allowing us to get just like a sheet of at least potential properties we can dive further into that have this opportunity.
Absolutely. I agree. Like I said, I think this is something that's really going to help a lot of people out. But these are the steps to do manually, and then we'll try and find the best way to automate that process.
Exactly. And as we wrap up, where can people find you, Matt?
So lumberjacklandlord.com and Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube. And then we're actually doing a live stream this Sunday, 11 a.m. We're doing a live stream where if you want to ask me questions directly, I will be there, and there's no consulting fee charge.
Perfect. Please go follow Matt if you haven't already. Thanks.
Thanks, Ariel.